When the waiter said my name, I knew something was wrong. I was supposed to be having dinner with my girlfriend. She never showed up. But the waiter? He looked at me like I was the last person in the room to figure something out. Then he said it. 5 words that shattered everything I thought I knew. She was here. With him. This isn't just a story about cheating. It's about how lies hide in the open, how patterns become proof, and how I made her walk straight into her own ending. Stay with me, because the way this ends, she never saw it coming. I remember the smell of the place before anything else. That soft blend of garlic, white wine, and seared butter. Familiar, comforting. It was the kind of restaurant where you didn't need to look at the menu anymore, where the staff knew your name and your drink order, and your seat by the window was always waiting, just like you left it. The reservation was for 2, 7:30. Her idea, actually. We need to reconnect, she'd said, swirling her wine glass the night before like she was stirring up something heavy. It's been too long since we've just talked. I remember that phrasing exactly. Just talked. No distractions, no phones, just us. So I showed up 10 minutes early, like always. Nervous, but hopeful. I wore the stupid blue shirt she liked, the one she said made my eyes look less tired. I even combed my hair, which I hadn't done since the last time we fought, when she accused me of letting everything go. I was seated by the window. Our window. It overlooked the tiny back garden they kept lit with fairy lights, even in early spring. Couples laughed around me, forks clinked against plates, and I tried to look busy, checking non-existent notifications. 10 minutes passed, then 15, then 20. "Would you like to order a drink while you wait?" the waiter asked, appearing so gently I didn't even notice him walk up. I looked up, and that's when it started to feel strange. He paused for a second too long, studied me. "You're Michael, right?" he asked, and then quickly added, "You used to come here with Elise. Table 7. A weird chill ran up my back. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Still do. She's just running late." He blinked. Not confusion. Something else. Guilt? Hesitation? I couldn't tell. "Oh," he said slowly. "Sorry. I just thought maybe." Then he stopped himself, clenched his jaw like he'd said too much. I raised an eyebrow. "Thought maybe what?" He shook his head, already regretting opening his mouth. "Nothing. I'll get your usual drink, all right?" He walked away before I could press him further. I stared down at the table for a long time, my pulse climbing higher with each minute she didn't show up. The wine arrived, still no Elise, and the waiter hadn't come back either. I didn't know it yet, but that moment, the hesitation, the way he looked at me like I was the punchline of a joke I hadn't heard, was the thread unraveling everything. She wasn't late. She was somewhere else. And the waiter knew why. I must have stared at that untouched glass of wine for 15 minutes, maybe more. Condensation gathered and rolled down the stem like sweat. Around me, silverware chimed. Voices rose and fell, and I felt like I was standing still in the middle of a fast-moving river. No texts, no calls, nothing. Just silence. And that lingering moment I couldn't shake. "You're Michael, right? You used to come here with Elise." Used to. I swirled the wine once and took a sip, more out of ritual than thirst. It tasted off. Not bad, just wrong, like trying on someone else's clothes. I didn't belong here tonight. She didn't either, apparently. Eventually, the waiter returned, walking like someone who'd rehearsed what he wanted to say, but still hadn't decided if he would. He glanced at the empty seat across from me, then back at me. His name tag said Jordan, scrawled in black Sharpie over a sticker that had been replaced too many times. "Everything all right?" he asked, too softly. I nodded, but something must have cracked on my face because he stayed there, awkwardly shifting his weight from one foot to the other. The kind of hovering you only do when your gut tells you something isn't right, but you're not sure if it's your place to say anything. "She's not coming, is she?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. He blinked, then sighed through his nose and glanced over his shoulder, like he was checking if someone might be watching. I don't want to get involved," he said, eyes flicking back to mine. "But, damn, man, you deserve to know." Something inside me dropped. "Know what?" He hesitated, and when he finally spoke again, it was like he was pulling each word out with a pair of tweezers. "She was here about 20 minutes ago, with someone else." The room didn't spin. My stomach didn't lurch. It was worse than that. It was calm. Cold. Still. "You sure?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Jordan nodded. "I recognized her. I wasn't going to say anything, but then I saw your name on the reservation. I figured, maybe she told you. Maybe it was open. But when you looked surprised when I said your name, I knew it wasn't." I swallowed hard. My throat felt like sandpaper. "Who was she with?" He gave me a long, regretful look. "Some guy. Tall. Beard. They sat in the back corner, not your usual spot. Real close. Real. Not subtle." My hands tightened around the base of the wine glass. "Did she see me?" "No," he said quickly. "They left before you got here." She was laughing, holding his hand. A pause hung between us, thick and heavy. "I'm sorry," he added. I laughed, short and humorless. "Yeah, so am I." Jordan left me alone then, giving me the kind of space reserved for breakups and funerals. I stared at the chair across from me for a long time, picturing her in it, smiling, lying, hiding behind that soft voice I used to trust like gospel. Then I pulled out my phone. Still no message. No Elise. But the waiter knew my name. And now, I knew his. I didn't leave right away. I should have, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there, staring at the half-melted ice in my water glass and the flickering candle that suddenly felt more like a spotlight than something romantic. Around me, forks scraped against porcelain. Laughter came in waves. Somewhere, a birthday song started up. But I wasn't part of it anymore. The waiter's words repeated in my head like a broken reel. She was here, with someone else. Real close. That image looped over and over, painting itself in sharper detail with each rotation. Elise laughing. Elise touching his hand. Elise in this same place we called ours. The menu was still in front of me. I don't know why I opened it. Habit, maybe. Or maybe I was just trying to hold on to something normal for a few more seconds. My stomach had no interest in food, but I ordered anyway. Her favorite dish: grilled sea bass, lemon risotto, blistered tomatoes. When the plate arrived, I just stared at it. Steam rose in slow curls. The smell hit me like a memory I hadn't consented to. This was the dish she ordered the night I proposed. Different restaurant. Same look on her face when she took that first bite. Eyes closed, like it meant something. I used to believe moments like that were real, that you could build a life out of small details. Now every bite felt like betrayal. I cut into the fish, pushing it around more than eating it. My appetite was long gone, drowned in the weight of what I couldn't unknow. This meal wasn't for nourishment. It was symbolic. A slow funeral for the life I thought I had. I kept imagining her at another table, smiling at someone else's jokes, her hand resting comfortably on a thigh that wasn't mine. It made my jaw lock so tight I thought I might crack a molar. Across the room, Jordan caught my eye again. There was a tension in his face, like he was waiting for something, or maybe worried I'd cause a scene. But I wasn't going to flip the table or storm out. That would be too easy, too dramatic. Instead, I sat with it. Let it simmer. Let the betrayal marinate like the fish on my plate. Somewhere along the way, I realized something. Elise had chosen this place for a reason. She didn't just pick it because we loved it. She picked it because she thought I'd never know. But she made one mistake. She underestimated people. People like Jordan. People who notice. And people like me, who don't forget. I paid the check without tasting more than 2 bites. Jordan didn't charge me for the wine, just slid the receipt across the table with that same tight look on his face, like he was passing along a death certificate. As I stood up, he glanced around, quick, cautious, and followed me toward the front. He caught up right by the entrance just before I could push the door open. "Hey," he said under his breath. "Can I talk to you for a second? Outside?" His voice was low, urgent. I nodded. The night air hit me hard. It had that bite early spring evenings carry, cold enough to remind you that warmth still has a price. The sky was dark, but the street lamps buzzed with that orange hue that made everything look like an old photograph. Jordan stepped out behind me, drying his hands on a towel he probably wasn't supposed to take outside. "I wasn't sure if I should say more," he began, glancing back at the restaurant window. "But after watching you sit there like that..." He trailed off, guilt spilling into every pause. I didn't say anything, just waited. "She's been here before," he said finally. "Not just tonight." I felt something twist in my gut. "How many times?" He shrugged, but not because he didn't know. It was the kind of shrug that said, "More than once." Enough that I lost count. "I first noticed her about a month ago," he said. "Same guy, same seat, table 12 in the corner. They'd come late, past the dinner rush. Always acted like they were just friends, until they thought no one was watching." He rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly looking younger than he had inside. "It wasn't my business. I figured maybe they were open. Or maybe it was just complicated. People cheat, man, more than you'd think. But when I saw you come in tonight," he let out a breath, "I recognized you from before, from when she used to look at you like that." I felt the air thicken in my lungs, that sudden ache that comes when something inside you starts to collapse, slowly, piece by piece. "She looked different with him," he added. "I don't know how to explain it. Not guilty, just sure. Like it wasn't even a secret to her anymore." I nodded slowly, like my body was moving ahead of me. My thoughts were lagging far behind. "You didn't have to tell me," I said. "Yeah," he replied, eyes sharp with quiet conviction. "But I would have wanted someone to tell me." I stood there for a long time after he went back inside, watching the window, watching the glow of warm light from inside a place that didn't feel like mine anymore. She'd been here before, with him. And suddenly, I wasn't just a guy left alone at a table. I was the last to know in a story everyone else had already finished reading. And now, I needed to turn the page. Once you know the lie, the memories start to turn on you. You replay moments that used to feel innocent, and suddenly, they're full of shadows. Things you brushed off now scream for attention. Words take on new meanings. Pauses become loaded. Smiles feel rehearsed. The drive home was quiet. My phone buzzed once. An email. Not her. Elise still hadn't texted, hadn't called. The silence stretched, almost like she was hoping I wouldn't notice. Or maybe she knew I finally had. When I got inside, the apartment felt sterile. Too neat. Her mug still on the drying rack. Shoes lined up by the door. A lavender candle burned low in the kitchen, her little habit to relax the air. The kind of domestic touch that looks perfect from the outside, but now felt like set dressing. I dropped my keys, sat down on the edge of the couch, and stared at the framed photo of us on the bookshelf. The one from last fall, apple-picking trip, smiles full of cider and cheap flannel. She was leaning into me. I remember thinking how lucky I was when we took that picture. Now I couldn't stop wondering where he was in the background of it all. And then it hit me. The weekends. There had been these stretches lately where Elise started filling up her Saturdays and Sundays with vague errands. At first, it was a work thing. Her boss needed extra help on a pitch. Then it became me time, self-care, yoga, walks alone. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? We'd been together 4 years. Love buys a lot of benefit of the doubt, but now I saw the gaps. The stories that never quite lined up. The times I'd offered to come with her. I'd just be in the way. The weekends she came home glowing, tired but content, like she'd stepped out of someone else's life. I went to our shared calendar and scrolled back. There were whole weekends blocked off as out with friends or sister's place. I clicked through the texts from those days. Short, delayed replies. Sorry, busy RN. Call you later? Phone's dying. I hadn't wanted to see it before. Now I couldn't unsee it. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared cloud account, something we'd set up to sync photos back when everything felt safe. She never turned off the auto upload. I don't think she even remembered it was still running. My stomach sank the moment the new folder popped up. Untitled. Dated from last weekend. There were 5 pictures. None of them showed faces. But one had her hand, her unmistakable hand, on a wine glass, wearing a bracelet I gave her for our 2nd anniversary. Across the table, the reflection in the glass was faint, but clear enough. Not me. Not even close. That weekend she said she was visiting her sister? She was somewhere else. With him. And suddenly, all the missing weekends snapped into place like bones, clicking into a broken frame. This wasn't a mistake. It was a routine. And I had no idea how long it had been running without me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in the dark, listening to the apartment creak and settle like it was breathing beside me, still pretending nothing had changed. Her side of the bed was untouched, pillows arranged just how she left them. I could still smell her shampoo on the pillowcase. I didn't touch it. Around 2 a.m., I got up and made coffee I didn't need, just to do something. Anything. The bitterness steadied me. I sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through every trace of her I could find. Her Instagram, smiling selfies, book recommendations, sunsets from rooftop bars. Nothing obvious. Just a curated version of a life she wasn't really living with me anymore. The next morning, she texted, "Hey babe, I think I left my green sweater at your place. Can you check?" No mention of dinner. No apology. No explanation. Just a casual reach into the house she'd emotionally moved out of weeks ago. I didn't reply. Instead, I made a call I never thought I'd make. There's this guy, Sean. We used to be friends, back when Elise and I first got together. He's part of her extended circle. We drifted apart a couple years ago after he and I had a falling out over something stupid. I hadn't spoken to him in a long time, but I remembered a look he gave me once at a party. Something cautious, protective, like he wanted to say something but didn't. He picked up on the 3rd ring. "Michael?" "Yeah. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." Silence. Then a sigh. You found out, didn't you? That told me everything. I didn't ask how he knew. I didn't yell. I just let him talk. And he did. He told me about the guy. Derek. Works in Elise's office. Transferred from the San Diego branch 6 months ago. Married. At least he used to be. Rumor was he and Elise started clicking during late meetings. At first it was subtle. Then, not so much. People noticed. Sean noticed. Tried to ask her about it once, but she shut him down fast. Said I was insecure and controlling. Said our relationship was complicated. She rewrote the story behind my back. I didn't want to be the one to blow it up, Sean admitted. But I should have said something. I'm sorry, man. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. How long? I asked. 3, maybe 4 months, that I know of. But it wouldn't shock me if it started earlier. I closed my eyes. I'd asked for honesty. This was what it felt like. Sean was quiet for a beat, then added, You didn't deserve this. I almost laughed, not because he was wrong, but because deserve doesn't mean anything in moments like this. Love isn't fair. Neither is betrayal. But knowledge? That's something you can work with. I thanked him, hung up, and sat there for a long time, phone still in my hand, the screen black. She'd taken her time building this lie. Now it was my turn. By the time the weekend rolled around, I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way people expect. I wasn't throwing things or screaming into pillows or drowning myself in whiskey-fueled self-pity. What I felt was colder than that. Clean. There's a moment in grief where everything stops bleeding, and you're left with the truth, just the bone of it. That's where I was. I didn't need to catch Elise red-handed. I already had enough. But something in me needed the undeniable proof. Not for revenge, not even for closure, just for clarity. Something I could hold in my hand and say, This happened. It's real. So I went back to the restaurant, not to talk, not to confront. I had a different plan. Jordan was working. He saw me the second I walked in and froze mid-step. I raised a hand calmly. I wasn't there to make a scene. When he came over, I nodded toward the back corner. Table 12. The one she always used when she came with him. I need a favor, I said quietly, and I won't ask twice. Jordan hesitated. You want to see her? No, I said. I want to see what she's doing. He stared at me for a moment, then finally nodded. She usually comes late, Saturday night. 9-ish. That gave me 2 days. I spent them preparing, gathering what I had. The photos from the cloud, the old text logs, screenshots of her blocked weekends. Sean had even forwarded me a message she once sent him, talking about feeling trapped and keeping things quiet for now. It was all circumstantial, but I didn't need to win a court case. I just needed a mirror, and Saturday night, I had it. I parked across the street from the restaurant at 8:45. The windows glowed with warm light. Jordan had agreed to text me if she came in. I kept my phone on the dash, screen up. At 9:11, it buzzed. One word. Here. I didn't move. I didn't storm inside. I waited. 15 minutes. Then 20. Then I stepped out of the car, walked slowly around the block, and entered the alley behind the restaurant. Jordan had already told me about the kitchen door, the one the servers sometimes used for smoke breaks. I didn't go in. Instead, I waited just outside. And 5 minutes later, Jordan stepped out casually, looked around, then handed me a phone. It wasn't mine. It was his. On the screen was a single photo. Table 12. Elise, mid-laugh, her hand resting on Derek's, his head tilted toward her, like they were sharing a secret meant only for two. Neither of them noticed the camera. Neither of them cared. I stared at the photo for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen. It wasn't anger I felt. It was the final puzzle piece falling into place. I handed the phone back without a word. Proof didn't scream. It whispered. The night I got the photo, I didn't send it to her. I didn't even tell her I knew. It sat on my phone like a lit fuse. One swipe and everything would explode. But I wasn't ready for the explosion. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about catching her. This was about making her feel it. The way I had. Not with rage, not with screaming matches or shattered glass, but with the kind of silence that rattles the bones. So, I waited. The next morning, Elise texted again. Casual, bright. "Want to do brunch today?" My treat. No mention of the night before. No mention of the dinner she'd skipped earlier that week. Like none of it happened. Like we were still in that safe, comfortable version of our life, where lies didn't live under the skin. I typed back, slowly. "Sure. You pick the place." She chose some trendy spot with overpriced eggs and neon signs that say things like, "Good vibes only." We sat outside under a string of fake ivy. She wore sunglasses too big for her face and smiled like nothing was broken. "You okay?" she asked between bites of avocado toast. I nodded. "Just tired. Didn't sleep much. Work stress?" Something like that. I watched her closely, how she looked at her phone between sips, how her eyes flicked around the patio, how she touched her lips between words, checking for lipstick like it mattered more than anything I might say. She didn't ask about the missed dinner. She never even acknowledged it. That told me everything. She thought she'd gotten away with it. And the longer I waited, the more I realized. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about control. She had rewritten the story in her head, made me the background character in a life I'd helped build. She wanted to float past the fallout, slip quietly from one version of herself to another, without interruption. But I wasn't going to give her that clean exit. Not yet. After brunch, we walked back to her car. She leaned in for a kiss. I gave her a brief one, hollow, measured. She smiled and said, "We should do this more often." I nodded. "Yeah, we should." Then I watched her drive away. Inside my pocket, my phone buzzed again. A message from Jordan. "They made another reservation, next Friday, same table." I stared at the screen, unmoving. She had no idea. But she would. Not with shouting. Not with revenge porn or public humiliation. Something slower. More deliberate. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because the fall hurts more when you think you're still standing. The thing about people like Elise, they count on you playing the part. The quiet partner. The one who forgives before the apology is even offered. The one who doubts himself just enough to believe it's his fault. But I had stopped playing that part. Now I was writing the final scene. The trap began with the reservation. Friday night. Table 12. The same time. The same place. The same predictable rhythm she'd fallen into like it was just another part of her week. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that I'd already made a second reservation. Same night. Same restaurant. Just a few tables away. I didn't go alone. I brought her sister. Sarah wasn't my first call. I hesitated for days before I even considered it. She and Elise were close growing up, but in the past year, cracks had started showing in their relationship. Sarah had picked up on the lies too, only she didn't know where they led. When I told her, when I showed her, the color drained from her face. Elise wouldn't, she started, then stopped herself. Number she would. She's been off for months. Distant. Shifty. I told her I wasn't asking for her to pick sides. "I've already picked," she said. "Let's burn it down." And so we did. The night of the trap, we dressed like any other dinner pair. Nothing dramatic. No accusations ready. No signs. No warning. We were seated at table 7, across the room, but with a clean view of table 12. Sarah angled her chair toward the bar. I kept my gaze low at first, sipping my drink, heartbeat steady. At 9:13, Elise walked in. She wore the navy dress I'd bought her for her last birthday, the same one she told me didn't fit right when I suggested she wear it to our anniversary dinner. She wore it for him. Derek followed 2 steps behind, casual, confident, smiling. They sat without looking around, comfortable in the assumption that the lie was still working. Elise reached for the wine list with the ease of routine. She touched his knee under the table. She laughed at something he said. Sarah's mouth tightened. Her hand curled around the stem of her glass like she wanted to snap it. I watched. Quiet. Steady. At 9:27, Jordan walked by their table and gave me the nod. I stood up. Sarah reached for my wrist. "You sure?" I nodded once. "I'm not confronting her," I said. "Not yet." Instead, I walked calmly out the side door and made my way to the hostess stand. Reservation number 2, Michael Winters, table 12. I pulled out the confirmation email and showed it to the young woman at the desk. "I believe that's our table," I said evenly, "but it seems someone else is using it." Her brow furrowed, scanning the screen. "Oh, I'm so sorry. That's odd. I don't know how." "It's all right," I said. "I just want them to know they're in my seat." Then I turned and walked out the front door without looking back. Sometimes you don't need a confrontation. Sometimes just knowing the ground is shifting beneath them is enough to make the cracks start spreading. Let them wonder. Let them squirm. The trap wasn't the reservation. It was the realization that she was no longer in control of the story. I was. By Saturday morning, Elise had called 3 times. I didn't answer. Let each one ring until it died out in the silence she'd carved for herself. The 4th time, she left a voicemail. "Hey, something weird happened at the restaurant last night. I think maybe there was a mix-up with reservations. Call me when you get this, okay?" Her voice was tight, careful, measured in that way people get when they're trying to sound calm, but already feel the floor shifting beneath them. I waited. That evening, I sent her a message, short, simple. "Let's talk. Tomorrow. 6 p.m. My place." No emojis, no anger, no hints, just a meeting time. When she walked through the door the next day, she looked like someone bracing for a storm. She wore that same navy dress. Whether out of habit or guilt, I couldn't tell. Her face was bare. No makeup. Eyes sharp, lips tight. "Are you okay?" she asked, standing just inside the doorway. I didn't answer that. "Sit down," I said. She did. I slid the phone across the coffee table. The screen lit up. Table 12. Her hand on his. That photo, the one Jordan took. She stared at it for a long time. Too long. She didn't deny it. Didn't flinch. Didn't cry. "Elise," I said quietly. "This is the part where you say something. Anything." She swallowed. "It didn't mean to happen like this." I laughed, dry and humorless. That line always gets dusted off eventually. She shifted in her seat. I was going to end it. I was just waiting for the right time. I raised an eyebrow. "Before or after brunch? Before or after you used me for a sweater search, a seat warmer, and an alibi?" I didn't want to hurt you, but you did." She looked down, and for a moment, I let the silence settle between us like dust. Then I stood and walked to the hallway, came back with a small duffel bag, her things, already packed. She looked at it, then at me. "You planned this." "No," I said. "You planned this. I just finally caught up." She didn't fight it, didn't beg or rage. Maybe she thought there'd be screaming, or a second chance. But there wasn't. I walked to the door, opened it, and stood aside. She hesitated, picked up the bag slowly. No drama, no tearful goodbyes. Just a quiet shuffle of feet, and a lifetime slipping through the crack in the door. Before she crossed the threshold, she turned. "Is that it?" she asked. I met her eyes one last time. "Check, please." And then I closed the door. Behind her. Behind us. For good.